Hi everyone, it's Meredith with Soul Navigation and welcome back to my Rising Sign series. Today we are going to talk about Aries Rising, the bold, the beautiful, and the powerful Aries Rising. So if you are an Aries Rising, this video is for you. But also I want to invite you, if you've got a lot of Aries in your chart, or if you know an Aries, or if your moon sign is Aries, or if your sun sign is Aries, I think you'll really benefit from listening to this video. So stick with me all the way through to the end because I am going to tell you the secrets about Aries Rising. Now, I do things a little bit differently around here because I'm kind of a myth buster. I really do like to give people the deeper truth. I don't like to stereotype and I don't like to put people in boxes. I also want to tell you that I don't really do sun sign astrology. So if you are an Aries and you can't relate to any of this, or more importantly, if you're an Aries rising and you can't relate to this, there are so many other things that are going on in your chart. There's over 40,000 different things. So I am only talking about this one little slice, okay? Now, you have to remember that we got to look at your whole entire chart. And by the way, if you want to order one of my reports offline, just scroll down to the notes section and you can go and order your entire chart to see where all your planets are, to see what your rising sign is. It's super, super informative and really, really exhilarating to get to sort of peel all the layers to your onion. So I'm going to give you 3 things by the end of this video, okay? The first one is how to make an Aries rising person pay attention to you and fall madly in love with you. How can you be their aphrodisiac? Then I am going to teach you why is Aries rising fueled by fearlessness? How did they get that? Why did they get that? And then I'm going to tell you what does an Aries rising act like and physically look like. So stick with me. First, let me tell you why the ascendant is so important. The word ascendant and rising sign are their synonyms, but it represents the way you spontaneously move through life. It is your first impression. It is the manner in which you start something new, and it's the way that you walk into the room, and it's how you see the world, and it's how you ask the world to see you. So you can only know this if you have your exact birth time. It's the only way to know this. I want to tell you another thing. This is also your first impression of life. This is also your entrance into the world. So this is literally how you were birthed, how you were born. The rising sign is going to be the reenactment of every new beginning in your life. It is going to be your approach, and it can also be seen as your basic mood in life and the feeling that you have of yourself. So the rising sign is no small thing. Welcome to my backyard, my little courtyard. You can hear the traffic, you can hear the babies crying, yeah, the moving trucks, I don't know. They all want to come out while I'm doing my rising sign series, of course. It is so quiet here at night, but in the afternoon, it's like, God, Grand Central Station. This is my Aries coming out, right? It's appropriate for my Aries rising video. The rising sign is also the greatest marker of your appearance, how you physically look. And you do have to take into consideration the different planets in your chart to see physical features. You have to look at what's going on in your first house. If you have Saturn in your first house, you might not take on the characteristics of Aries rising, but it is the physical features and it's usually pretty accurate, so we're going to talk about it. So let's talk about the power inside the Aries rising person. First of all, this is the face of the warrior. This is the maverick. This is the courageous go-getter. This is the pioneer. Today, a pioneer would be considered anybody who moves unthwarted into new uncharted territory. It would be the first person to go to Mars, right, and live on Mars. That would be, yes, a maverick. It would also be a go-getter. It would also be, you know, the courageous go-getter, as I said, but it would also be a pioneer. So I want you to think about the pioneers and how they quested to the other side of the Americas, not having a clue in what they would actually find. It was hearsay, it was some good stories, and it was a whole lot of hope. So there's an optimism and there's a willingness to trade up and trade out when you are an Aries rising. Aries oftentimes will be the first person in their family or in their tribe or in their circle to do something first, to go to college, to race a car, because they are also the daredevil, and they will step into new experiences as the daredevil. So oftentimes they are the first in the family to become educated or a doctor or live abroad or live overseas. And there's a lot of force and there's a lot of torque inside an Aries rising person that can lead you to be either in awe or in fear of these people. So Aries ruler is Mars, and Mars represents our life force energy, the willpower, and the will to exist. So you will see this will in an Aries rising at hello. Aries is the ram, and the ram with its ferocious horns as weapons charges headfirst in to life and experiences. And the ram is ferocious and it's unyielding and it doesn't quit easily, right? It has kind of an obstinance and it wants to win. And so Aries rising is just like that. It approaches life and it approaches new beginnings with a force so powerful that it really only expects one of two things: either a victory or a metaphoric death of some sort. So there's no middle ground for Aries rising. They oftentimes speak in winning or losing terms. And you'll see this giant, courageous, indomitable force and will with this all or nothing confidence and attitude and kind of naivete, if you will, because they are the baby of the zodiac. But they have this force of the ram to go first, and it all happens pretty quickly with an Aries rising. Think of some Aries risings with me as we go through this video, okay? And put these people in the back of your head. I want you to think of these people going first, being the best. I want you to think about how quickly these people had an ascension in their life or rose to power or fame. I want you to think about their vitality, their life force energy, their will, their willpower. So let's dive in. First, think of John Lennon, one of the most famous and iconic singers in the entire world. Next, think of Alexander the Great, one of the greatest conquerors of the world. Linda Goodman, very interesting. She's the pioneer in modern astrology. Remember all those Linda Goodman books when we were young? Maybe you're younger than me and you don't remember, but she's a real pioneer. Nostradamus, one of the most revered prophets whose predictions actually have come true. Morgan Freeman, one of the greatest voices on the silver screen. He has an indomitable voice, doesn't he? And he's one of the greatest actors. Bill Cosby, the rise and fall of America's greatest television dad, the genius comedian. His whole life breaks my heart. Doesn't it break yours? Joan Rivers, a real pioneer in females doing comedy, right? And her sharp, biting wit is so ferocious. She gets you in the jugular. Chris Rock, one of the funniest men ever to live. John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men in the world, and successful, if you will. Louis Armstrong, one of the greatest jazz musicians of all time. Shaquille O'Neal, one of the most dominant and influential basketball players in the world. And Brahms, he's in the top 10 classical composers, and we still listen to him 186 years later. Yeah, talk about a legacy. So these people know how to make life happen. They know how to move, and they're not into dilly-dallying, and they're engaged with life, and they move through experiences with a quickness, kind of like I'm trying to do this video. I'm channeling my Aries rising, even though I'm not one, but I'm channeling it. But they walk with their torso forward as if they're on this, direct mission to accomplish this very big and important feat. And you come just to find out that all they're really doing is making a grilled cheese sandwich in the kitchen. But They do it with so much will and vitality and energy and confidence and ease that you think they're going into the next room to change the world. But no. Yeah, it's a chicken quesadilla. They do everything like that. These people are filled with that, that desire to produce. And there's a confidence that can also look very easily slightly pissed off. And the chances are is they probably are. It's like, hey, who moved my cheese? You know, they get angry at the littlest things because they are on such an intense mission, and they have stuff to do. So there's a confident, don't mess with me right now or ever attitude or feeling that they give off, or a vibe. It's like, hey, don't mess with me. You know, I'm doing stuff. I'm doing important stuff. Sorry you're not, but I am. I'm here to be the best. And they get out of bed like this, a lot of them. So they actually don't even really know they're doing this, but they have this impactful way about their walk and their talk, and they make deep, not light, impressions. I need to tell you that I'm Meredith with Soul Navigation, and I'm an evolutionary astrologer. I feel like I'm too far away from you. And I've been doing personal readings now for over 20 years, and I welcome you to my YouTube channel if you haven't seen me before. And I would love for you to go and just explore my videos that I have on here. I like to go deeper. I'm a myth buster. I like to tell the real truth and the secrets about the signs. And I hope that I can share my knowledge with you, and that you feel inspired, enlightened, awakened, and empowered. That's the goal of my station. But it's really fun and exciting to do this work, and I love sharing it with you. And I hope at the end of this video you'll feel, or you'll consider yourself very educated on the subject and the energy of energies. You know, this is a really fun and exciting rising sign to talk about. You know, it's and when it's in a rising sign, it shows up a little bit differently than how it does in a sun sign or a moon sign. And like I said, I'm going to tell you about the secrets and how to best love them and nurture them, and how to deal with their absolutely impossible side, because they have one. And it's fun because this video takes a ton of energy to even talk about the energetic Aries rising. So I'm going to bring it all to you right here, right now. Stick with me. And please press subscribe. I would love for you to become a subscriber, because I'm going to be loading up a lot more content, and I don't want you to miss a thing. I also do live feeds where I read your chart. I pull charts from my viewers, and you get a chance to read with me. And I'll be doing those maybe once a month, maybe twice a month. And I would love your ideas. Write me below. Give me a comment. If you are an Aries rising, I want to know if you can relate to this. Please, please, please tell me. And add anything you want, because this is a community of learners and teachers and students. We all walk on that axis, and your comments actually really do create a great and beautiful and deep and meaningful community, and it's very helpful. I have two really, really big communities on here. My Aquarius rising, if you haven't checked out the madness and genius of Aquarius rising, that community is just awe-inspiring. My Pisces community is also so inspiring. They add a lot of value to my video, and I thank you for that if you're one of those people. So Aries, come on, bring it home for me, and subscribe and leave a comment. You know, when you are an Aries rising, there's something that is really different about your natal chart. Your house cusps all around the whole entire chart actually line up with the natural zodiacal wheel. The natural wheel. So your wheel, if you're Aries rising, and the original zodiacal wheel are in perfect alignment and harmony. And so what does that mean? That means that the underpinning of your chart doesn't have an extra contrasted component to it. It means that if you're Aries rising, you will have Aries in the first house. And what do you know? Aries rules the first house. You'll have Taurus in the second house. What do you know? Taurus rules the second house, natally and naturally. The natural zodiacal wheel, the natural ruler of the second house is Taurus. And then the third house is Gemini, and the fourth house is naturally ruled by Cancer. And if you're Aries rising, you have the same exact thing, and it goes all around the wheel. So most likely all the signs will be in their original natural zodiacal wheel houses that they are most comfortable in and that they have their best expression in. And because they are in the natural ruling houses, and only Aries rising will do that, you guys are the only ones. So the energy is very, very pure. It's like with no added ingredients. It's right. It's not Fruit Loops, people. It's like pure chicken. So now if you are a really late Aries rising and you're not using a whole house system to calculate your chart, you might only get some of the houses lined up like that. But if you're right in the middle, or if you're early, then your chart is going to be, if you're a 0 degrees Aries rising, oh my God, you're born on the spring equinox. That is, first of all, that's the most powerful day of the year, the spring equinox. That is actually, you know, the Western astrologer's new year. And I'll just tell you though, that I think this is why, because it's in the natural zodiacal wheel and it's very pure and raw energy, I think that is why Aries usually knows who they are and how they want to approach life. And it's usually head on, and it's raw and it's pure, and they have an ease about themselves because they're working with this very pure energy. Now, I'm not talking aspects, and I'm only talking rising signs here, and only Aries rising has this same dynamic of the natural zodiacal wheel. No other sign has that. And that is why I think their energy is just so direct, so condensed, so intense, so one way. They're not super complicated people, to be honest with you, or at least Aries energy is not super complicated. Now, if you're Aries rising and you're a Scorpio and you've got Cancer and Pisces, yeah, you're going to be a complicated person. But Aries rising energy simplifies things because it is so pure. So why did Aries rising incarnate? They came to develop a persona of courage through taking charge and leading. At their very best, they're going to show you how to live boldly, bravely, and courageously, and how to become unintimidated in life. They teach us through example how to jump into the fire without hesitation, and they don't get caught up in what others want. They do them. They do their agenda. They don't depend on others easily, nor do they expect others to take care of them. And if you are an Aries rising or an Aries, tell me about that. Will you tell me about your independence? And how old were you when you realized, wow, I got to do me? So I believe that they were born into an environment that required them to be quick on their feet and develop instinctual survival mechanisms at a really, really early age. They had to get independent, and they had to most likely learn to survive in a world that either did become dangerous for them or would become dangerous for them. They had to learn how to survive an environment that could really hurt them or did hurt them. And if you are an Aries rising, will you please tell me about that? Just at least tell me if that's true or not true for you. You don't have to go into how your world hurt you if you don't want to. If you do want to share, that's helpful. But I would love to know if you find that to be accurate. So Aries, you know, in order to survive, they had to become independent. They couldn't depend on their environment to protect them and nurture them. So they developed a very, very, very intense and deep self-focus. And some would say a selfishness. Some would say a self-absorption. They always had to stay in touch with their individual power. And they learned very early on that they would need to use that power and not hide behind others or depend on others to get their needs met. It just wouldn't work. Aries rising people are some of the most courageous and independent people born on earth. Why? Because they had to. They developed this coping mechanism by the age of 12 years old, and then they ended up using it to survive their world over and over and over. And every new beginning has sort of that gusto put into it, because that's what they developed inside of themselves. That's what they mastered, if you will. And they also have this deep desire to be seen in life as the best in some arena in their life. They have the ability to find huge success, huge, enormous successes by overcoming hardships and challenges and the odds. You know, a lot of people didn't believe in the Aries rising's life because I think they were too busy manufacturing and living inside of their own wounds. And Aries rising were oftentimes even neglected. That's why they got independent. And so when you sign up for Aries to be your rising sign, you're signing up for a lifetime that will require courage. You are signing yourself up for a lifetime of challenges to overcome. I'm not kidding. Let's ask our Aries rising, have you had a lifetime of challenges, or did you just have a real simple, easy, you know, life in Margaritaville, swinging in a hammock, sipping on your margarita with your toes in the sand? I doubt it, you know, because Aries rising is here to build courage. And courage requires yourself to be afraid of something. You don't get courage for free. We don't come out of the womb with a bag of courage. No, courage is built, and it's built out of fear. And so show me an Aries rising that wasn't at first originally fearful. That's how they developed their fearlessness. And I promised you I would tell you, why do they have this intense fearlessness? Because they got it scared into them, truthfully. So it's like, tell me as an Aries rising child or now, what were you afraid of? What was your catalyst? You know, as I said, you'd have to be afraid of something. So did you have a fear of disapproval? Did you have a fear of failure, being broke, being trapped, being dominated, being hurt? And if you are an Aries rising, what was it? What were you afraid of? What hurt you? If you can, be grateful for that very thing. If you can, be grateful for that very thing that made you fearful or scared or hurt. Because it's out of that conduit that you grew yourself. You grew your indomitable spirit. You grew your courage. It developed that wound, that thing that you were afraid of, developed the maverick in you. It pushed you into leading. It pushed you into the pioneer that you are. It developed the will to survive, right? It created the ride or die in you. And I'm not advocating that anybody should experience a life of pain or a life of suffering or a life of hurt. But if you can have some gratitude for those challenges, those obstacles that you overcame, because that's where you got your grit, your tenacity, and your ferocity. Aries rising is busy. They are in perpetual motion. They don't sit, they move. And they love games, any kind of games, all games, volleyball, softball, the game of chase, right? They love the game of chase. And I think they love games because they love to win. They hate losing. They are bad losers. Have you ever seen a 2-year-old lose? That's about what it looks like. So they also march to the beat of their own drummer, and they really don't care very much about your beat. They really could give 2 flying squirrels about what you're marching to. And it's not because they're rude. They're just so self-determined, and they're so self-focused because they're trying to A, become a leader, B, become the very best they can be, 3, stay in perpetual motion, and 4, not let that thing get them, whatever that thing is. They will not be destroyed. So they're unstoppable when it comes to pursuing their dreams or pursuing a game. And they get a lot done. They are the achievers, great achievers of the zodiac. There are a lot of achievers. Capricorn achieves too. They just do it in a very different way. But as I mentioned before, they're here to learn self-reliance, and they don't depend on social approval. Oh, believe me, they want you to be in awe of them. They want you to love their outfit. They're always dressed really, really well. and they like to be original, and they don't mind going at it alone. And oftentimes they're so independent they can't fit into groups very well. Unless you have a lot of Aquarius in your chart as an Aries, you really are a entrepreneurial spirit. And if you have Aries on your midheaven like I do, you will probably work for yourself. You probably like working for yourself better than being, you know, on a team. But Aries rising, they don't just naturally blend in and cooperate with others really easily. They can be a leader or a loner, but they're not really a blender. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a statement. So I would love to know that about yourself if you're Aries rising. Are you a really good team player, or would you say you're a better leader leading a team? Now, as I said, I was going to tell you what Aries rising looks like, because the rising sign does describe what the person looks like, or if you have a lot of Aries in your chart, or but I do want you to know that you have to take planets into consideration for this. But I'll give you some characteristics of what an Aries rising looks like. The first thing you're going to see about an Aries rising is this amazing, powerful, big vitality. And vitality is radiance. They have a pop. They have a presence about them. They have a power attached to their persona. One of my favorite Aries is the former Seattle Seahawks, Richard Sherman. He now plays for the 49ers. Boo! I don't know if I have any football fans in the house, and forgive me for my football analogies, but I am in Seattle, and yeah, football's a roller coaster for us that live here. But Richard Sherman, it was considered such a loudmouth, right? And his personality is so Aries. But that's the kind of power and vitality that I'm talking about. Maya Angelou is also an Aries, I believe. And I believe she is an Aries. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she is. And she has that big, powerful presence, right? When you see an Aries walking in the room, they're going to wear this vitality. They're going to wear this radiance. But they're going to also have power shoes on, or the power jacket, or the power purse, or the power hair, or the power blazer. You look at Aries rising, they will have this power statement about their clothes. When they walk into a room, they want the room to notice and look and be like, wow. They love admiration, so they wear things that you will admire. Now, they also have a masculine approach and a masculine look. So masculine is just energy that thrusts forward. Feminine energy receives. And this is the least feminine of all the signs. This is truly the least feminine. So a lot of Aries risings are alphas, and they oftentimes have this athletic, really strong build, high cheekbones, and a really prominent forehead. That's one way that you can really see they have a strong forehead. They oftentimes have red hair. Red is usually their favorite color, or they're really attracted to the reds, or they have thick hair, really thick hair, and a lot of hair. And they also have a long neck, and they have a very prominent and distinguished face. Like, you could recognize them in a lineup if you had to, if you've only seen them briefly. It's like they have these recognizable faces, this unforgettable face, and they like it that way. They can have a little bit of a baby face because they do represent the baby of the zodiac, and their eyes are piercing and kind of penetrating, and they have a high energy. And the last thing they will look like is weak or feeble or vulnerable. So if you meet a weak Aries with no courage or no self-esteem, something went terribly wrong. Yeah, they should get a reading from me. So but do them a favor and go scroll down into my comments section and look for my online scheduler. That's where you can buy my natal charts, my compatibility reports, and where you can schedule a reading with me. And if you have a weak Aries or Aries rising in your life, oh my God, get them a reading, because they got disempowered somewhere and something is truly broken, because that is not the natural energy of Aries rising. But something went wrong in their life. They got scared, but they didn't summons up that courage to develop the ability to overcome their fears. And so this is a wounded person. That's a very wounded person. So help them by honoring them. And they do need serious help. So if you are an Aries rising, will you tell me in the comments below if you have the physical characteristics that I described? And do you feel like this, you know, describes your Aries rising accurately? I would love to know. So what is hard or painful about being an Aries rising is they almost always refuse to tap into the power of vulnerability. And it's quite difficult to get to know them intimately. So if you have an Aries rising in your life that allows you to see their wounds or their weaknesses or their vulnerabilities, you have struck gold. I mean, wow, wow, wow. That is love. That is love. That is so, so deep for an Aries to do. Deep trust and intimacy is so rare for these people. They can do it, but it is only with very few people in this world. And so if you are one of them, you are so, so lucky. So if you are an Aries rising, tell me how many people you can be vulnerable with in your life. I bet you it's less than 5. I bet you it's maybe not even 1. Who can see you weak and you really can be okay with it? Who can you unzip yourself for and just show the guts of your soul to? I would love to know that. I would love to know that. Tell me about that. Because Aries rising has come into this world that, and they've bought into tackling a mission that requires strength to wrestle the world and pin it on the mat, to start something new, to compete, to take risks, to blaze new trails. They have to create conflict in order to create change. To become independent, it will require conflict. When you leave the tribe gets mad at you, right? They don't like it. So they have to be a force to speed up the process, to generate activity, and to blaze their own maverick trail. So being vulnerable kind of gets in the way of all that, right? It can't just be like, hey mom, I think I'm gonna leave the house now at 16. I'm gonna emancipate myself from you. You're okay with that, right? No, they have to do it with torque and force. They have to do it with rocket fuel. So rocket fuel is the Aries rising's concoction. Rocket fuel. That's how potent they are. So I want to tell you something though. Aries rising is not as much of a combative fighter as a lot of people believe. They actually believe in the power of positive thinking, so much so that they think of themselves as invincible. And Aries rising has a tendency to just pick themselves up over and over and over and over after every single challenge. If they get knocked down, they go back up. Get knocked down, go back up. They never give up. Tell me if that's true, Aries rising. Do you give up? Not easily. And you hate being sick, you hate being down, you hate being in any kind of position of dependency. So accepting your own human limitations and your own emotional needs is just really, really hard for you. You have developed a position in your family in your formative years where you just set up the game. You love games where you didn't need anybody. I mean, at 2 years old, you were probably making your own dinner in the kitchen. Maybe not, but you know what I mean. You might have been driving at 8 years old because you just needed to get the hell out of town, right? So Aries knows how to leave. They know how to, I mean, they got wings on their back and they can fly the coop, boom-o, just like that. And that's because you knew really early that you could do better on your own than being held back by your tribe, right? I say tribe like family that you grew up in, or friend group, or I don't know, siblings or whatever. But people hold you back. And when you're left to your own devices, God, what you can create. Oh my God, what you can create. I do think it's a wise Aries rising and a wise Aries that finds a good mentor and coach in the world and emulates them and becomes coachable, because we do better when we have role models and when we have people who can teach us and when we can be guided into our biggest sense of self. Aries rising was born to be the best and a leader. So admitting that you ever even had a need really gets in the way, and it slows you way down, and you want to be in perpetual motion, and you don't have time to sit around and talk about these mushy-gushy, icky feelings, right? If you are an Aries rising, I want to know, what were you first at? Were you first at playing baseball in your family? Were you first in the class? Were you first born? Were you the first one to go to college? Were you the first one to come out as gay? What were you the first at that required a lot of courage? Let's talk about the last thing. You don't want to miss this part. So what turns an Aries on? Well, it's really simple, and ask an Aries rising and ask an Aries, and it's really hard to find, but it is super simple. You need someone who is, are you ready for this? Here's your aphrodisiac. You need someone who is a match. You need someone who is really in touch with your agenda, and someone who truly believes in you, and someone who sees your winning side. And you need someone who will compete with you or give you a run for your money. You need a confident partner who doesn't combatively or openly challenge you, but just someone who can confidently own their own power, and someone who might just sincerely be better than you. Oh, I know it hurts, doesn't it? It hurts so good. You need somebody who is more renowned, more refined, more respected, maybe has a little more strength. If they are strong, if they are renowned, if they are powerful, and if they are even a little bit of famous, but humble, this is your biggest aphrodisiac, because you are a person who thrives on challenges and depending on no one and nothing but your own strength. So you depend on your own strength, your own intelligence, and your own courage. And so you need somebody who's not insecure and clingy and glommy and gets their self-worth from others. You can't stand those needy, clingy victims, but you need the partner that looks and acts like a winner. You need a partner who knows they are great. You need that. You need a partner that respects direct and total, honest, hardcore communication. You need a partner that has thick skin to hear honest truths, because you will not mince words. You are not here for flattery. You are here for hardcore truth. And you need someone who can handle that cold and brutal truth, someone that can give and receive honest feedback. And you also need someone who can forgive you for your selfishness, right? That's not really selfishness, but your self-focus. And you need to be forgiven for having sort of a myopic sense of the world, because your life is actually about your life. Right? Oh my God, we need to invite Cancers to come over here and listen to this video, because, or Virgos, because Aries Rising's life is about their life. Isn't that a crazy oxymoron in a way? Not really, but so many people don't live like that. So, you know, your Aries rising partner, if you have one, is true to themselves and wants somebody who is also true to oneself and true to one's own vision and convictions, right? And that takes precedence even over them. They are turned on. So if you have a self-focus on a goal that that you are so determined, maybe you're Lady Gaga and you want to get to #1 in the charts, and you are so focused on that, and you are exercising your talent every day. That is the single biggest, sexiest, aphrodisiac turn on for an Aries or Aries rising. Somebody so deep into their own gift that you're willing to actually piss them off because you're cultivating you, yourself, and your own life, your own ambition, and your own goal. Why? Because that's what they want to do. And so if you're doing that, that's what they admire, right? They kind of admire their own way. These people are very into their processes, their way of thinking, because that's their survival mechanism. They're not trying to be the jerk in your life. They truly have a greatness that they are trying to bring up, bring out, and cultivate and nurture and put out there into the world. So having a mission bigger than they are to you in your life is the secret. It's truly the secret, because that requires confidence and courage and the values that they respect the most. So honesty, integrity, personal honor, and authenticity are the Aries rising gods. And of course, the courage and strength that we've been talking about. So you need to worship those things. Now, tell me about your Aries rising friends. And if you are an Aries rising, I want to know if you were able to bring intimacy, deep intimacy, into your life, and how did you do it? How did you do that? Because other Aries and other Aries risings will benefit so much from learning about that. I don't know what your personal relationship to vulnerability is, but if you are capable of being vulnerable, to the degree that you are capable of being vulnerable is to the degree that you are capable of giving and receiving love. So is it a little or is it a lot? Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I want to know what you love and what you hate about being an Aries rising. And I hope so much that you got something deep and rich like chocolate fudge from this video. And I would love, love, love to know, what is your life like being an Aries rising? Also, please subscribe to my channel. And if you would like a reading from me, go down into the notes section and click on my online scheduler and jump on my calendar. And if you would like a natal report, that's where you get to learn about all the different aspects inside your chart, where your Mars is, where your Venus is, and also you can always purchase a chart on my online scheduler too. And I didn't write them, I didn't write the reports, but I do endorse them, and I think they are the best on the market. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining my Rising Sign series. I hope you'll watch my other videos, and I look forward to seeing you right here on my Soul Navigation YouTube channel next time. Take care.